I wanted to talk about the dill exchange and also the botting issues that Spencer had brought to light. I think that was what the very beginning of the year. And since he did that, we've seen a huge reduction in impact on the dill exchange. And so I'd like to talk about that a little bit. The dill exchange, and let's just look at that real quick, is, if you're new, we'll just talk about what it is real quick here. So if you go to your assets tab and you click on exchange, this is where you're able to grind out, so you can grind out dilithium in the game, right? You're aware of what that is. Dilithium can be exchanged for Zen. Okay, we're almost under 3 million EC backlog. So this is the amount of dilithium in EC worth that's available to purchase. So the larger this number is, the more dilithium that is there. The maximum exchange rate is 500, so it can't go any higher than that. So that means basically you'll get one Zen for 500 dilithium. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about it being broken. It wasn't broken, it just was in a bad place in terms of this backlog was so high. I think it was over 11 million. And so what that meant is that if you were to put dilithium up for Zen, so you're trading your dilithium in for Zen, you were waiting months, if not more. And so that was a big problem. And this is one of the main ways that, free-to-play players will get what they want. So, if you trade in enough dilithium, you can get enough Zen, and you can buy stuff out of the Z store. And you basically can buy anything in the game except for the lifetime subscription, because that is not actually listed in the Z store. You have to buy that on the website. So this has been a big complaint over the last couple of years, and this is dramatically going down here. I don't know what the times are going to look like now based off of this, but I'm guessing maybe a week or two, which isn't bad at all. It'd be nice if it was instant, right? But ever since I've started playing, even before it was at this max level, it was never exactly instant, but it was pretty quick, day or so maybe. So this number here, while it's still high, is 4 times lower almost than where it had been sitting at for the last couple of years. And so that created a lot of problems for people that were wanting to play for free, grind out the dilithium, and be able to get Zen for basically just their time in playing the game. So let's pull up, I'm just going to play a couple snippets from Spencer's video here. All right, so let's start here. So this is a graph of where the exchange has been, so what the backlog has looked like. So historically, or at least going back to the beginning of 2022, it was still fairly high at the 4 million. It looks like we're going to start seeing it under the 2. I'm not sure what happened here, if this was one of the vanity, shield for dilithium that they did. So they've been trying, Cryptic has been trying to put in sinks. I don't think they've been trying very hard to fix this. So they'll put in some sinks. They've added some things to the fleet, but we really haven't seen any kind of impact. So, I mean, this went up to just under 12 million. And when we see, and Spencer hasn't said it, but I'm going to say it. So since Spencer's videos have come out highlighting this and exposing some of these things, and he's reported some of these people that he was able to find, we've seen this just dramatic reduction that's just continuing to go down and down and down. Even through an event like this where, a lot of people would be, wanting to buy Zen and things like that, and because of the events and the new ships and those kinds of things. So I think we need to give Spencer credit for that. I think bringing light to this and, reporting these people that are doing this. There was somebody that was botting basically Starbase 1, made a mistake, didn't hide themselves, and so it was very obvious that, there's hundreds of instances of Starbase 1 running. Which didn't make any sense. While it is a popular queue, if you compared it to everything else, it was just astronomical. And then the names were, I'm just going to make it up, bot 1, bot 2, bot 3. It was that kind of a naming structure. So it was clear what was happening. He reported it, made a video on it. They addressed it. Most of it anyways. Kale had responded to some of it on a 10 Forward live stream, kind of dismissing this a little bit, which I think... I don't think he had any idea what he was talking about, and just kind of dismissed, that, well, there's some other things also going on, and maybe that's true. but I haven't heard from them any other actions that they've taken in terms of trying to fix the dill exchange, with, you know, changing some of these TFOs or, you know, going after bots. Some of that they may not, you know, publicly say. But as far as I can tell, you know, over the past 6 months or a year, they really haven't done anything other than some adjustments to, you know, the Phoenix boxes and some expansions on the fleet. And also every now and then you'll get those dill syncs for vanity shields and things like that. I don't think any of that had anything to do with what we're seeing here. So let's just give part of this here a listen.
The game for the next couple of weeks. So at the end of January, the dill X had dropped all the way down to 7 million dilithium, or 7 million Zen worth of dilithium in the backlog. A week later, it was already down to under 6 million. And just yesterday, on February 24th,
so now we're seeing it almost another million down.
4 million.
And this is just from, what, a day ago? So we're seeing this thing just crash, which is really, really good. It's good for the game. I've stopped farming and doing this for my free-to-play because it just was taking too long, you know, and I'm patient, but I don't want to wait 2-3 months. And this has been something that the community has really, really been, you know, I don't want to say complaining because it's legitimate, but, you know, been voicing their dislike with what's going on with this. And I think it's kind of ridiculous that this is what it's taken to fix it. I don't think that Cryptic was really interested in fixing it. I don't think it works to their benefit in any way to fix it. So I think they've given it some lip service. They've done some things around the edges that they can claim helped, or, you know, were an attempt to help. But the fleet expansion, I mean, that's content, you know, expand. They didn't make that expansion just to fix the dill exchange, right? So that was just something that can be said, well, this will have some impact on it. And I think it might, but not at the level that we're seeing here over the last 2 months. I mean, it's just, it's insane the amount that this has come down since then. So let's talk about a little bit of kind of what the botting things look like, right? So there's a couple different ways that they go about doing it that I'm aware of, and there's probably more. So what'll happen is there's certain TFOs that you can run private, and you can AFK them, and they'll still give you, you know, the full dilithium rewards. So what'll happen is people will create multiple accounts. They'll create you know, multiple characters within those accounts, and then they use, you know, bot programs to basically just put them in, they AFK, they leave, it collects it, rinse and repeat. Some of these don't even have cooldowns. So they really need to fix some of that. And I don't understand why that didn't get like patch updated, you know, the next day after this came to light, because that's something that could really fix that. Now, some of the thoughts as to why they don't fix some of it is that creating a bot farm is also expensive, right? So if Admiralty is another way that you can do it, there's, you know, you need all the character slots, you need ships, you need these things, right? And so for Cryptic, if somebody is creating multiple accounts that are going to be bots, bot farm accounts, they're buying out like the entire C store, you know, duty officer slots, the character slots, tons and tons of ships, all these kinds of things. We're talking thousands of dollars, you know, per account, which makes their metrics look really good. And it also makes it look like when certain things are happening, at least when they're AFKing or doing TFOs, that makes the metrics look good as well, because they have all these different instances spun up. So when you just look on paper, these things all look like positive things. There's large purchases happening. There's lots of activity happening in the game. The problem is that it's not real. I mean, the money's real. They paid. But it's happening at the expense of everybody else that wants to be able to use the dill exchange. And, you know, when this bot farm came to light for Starbase 1, it also made me think about that server performance we have. If you have hundreds of extra instances of maps running that are not legit, right? They're just AFK bots. What does that do to the servers? You know, that lag, getting disconnected, all those kinds of things. And so I understand like the side from the company saying, well, we just kind of turn a blind eye because it's not really hurting our bottom line. And, you know, but it hurts the overall experience. And I'm a little frustrated with, you know, the response to that, which has been next to nothing from what I've seen. And again, I don't work there. Maybe they're doing things on the back end that's having an effect on this as well, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. And what I really don't like is the attitude that we get from, the community manager in some instances, where it's just like, you guys don't really know what you're talking about. That's not really all of it. And it's very condescending, where, you could just be like, hey, you know what? Thanks for bringing that up. We're going to look into this. We're going to get this thing figured out. And I don't know, I can't read their minds or hearts, why that is the way that it is. Is it a metric thing? Is there just some sort of slight disdain to long-term player base? The game really focuses on bringing in new people to have the Star Trek experience, and then eventually they move on to other games. Us players that play the game for long periods of time, we're actually rare. Most of you guys, we have new players here and we have very long-term players here. There's some people that come back and forth here and there, but this game is really kind of geared around that new player and just kind of returning players for new content and those kinds of things. And so I think that the long-term players, where we want this game to do well, we want it to perform well, we don't want these kinds of problems, and we're constantly talking to them about it, I think it builds up some resentment within some of the people, at least the customer side facing, towards us. That's not, it's not founded in a place that I think is good. I don't know that it's, maybe it's just human nature. You're constantly just getting all of that all the time. And so you just kind of naturally build up that kind of built-in response. So yeah, I've dealt with Kel personally, multiple times. He's a really nice guy. He's always been nice to me, respectful. He's a good dude, and so it's not a knock on him personally. I think a lot of it is really just kind of the culture and structure of whatever's going on at Cryptic Studios. So I bookmarked this part. I can't remember exactly what Spencer says in it here. Let's just listen to it for a moment. We'll move the conversation along here, and then we'll talk about this a little bit.
Which leads us into the big topic here, and that is that the real issue for the Dilithium economy, specifically on PC, is bots. I've said on numerous occasions that I believe bots have had a large impact on the in-game economy. We've seen in the past that there were bots for things like the Omega minigame, and botting the Omega minigame became so common that Cryptic had to change the Omega components to make them all bind on pickup, which completely killed that Omega market and made it worthless for people to bot. Now, most bot farms are...
So it made it worthless to bot, so they did solve that issue, but in doing that, they made it to where I'm never going to use that again. Because it was really nice. The Omega event, you could get these resources where you could create really, really good upgrades. This is before the Phoenix boxes were always available. I think that's probably one of the problems historically, is they should have just left Phoenix events as just Phoenix events instead of always available. Because I would save up tons of dilithium when the event would start, then I would blow all of it on Phoenix boxes. Now that it's always available, you're able to just, you've gotten everything that you need out of it, except obviously for the elusive epic tokens, that is. But so with the Omega event, you used to be able to farm out of that these upgrade pieces. You could combine them and make really good upgrades out of them that you could, take Mark II weapons, either crafted or out of boxes, and be able to get them up to epic real easy. It was nice. If I didn't have all of them, I could go buy them off the exchange and those kinds of things. So it always... a lot of these fixes always end up happening at, the legitimate player's expense, right? So I don't use them anymore because I didn't sit there and farm those like crazy, because it's boring after a certain amount of time, right? So I would do a little bit, but then I would go to the exchange, I'd buy the pieces, put them together, make weapons, sell them, use them, whatever. But because they bound all of those to character, so bots couldn't get them and sell them and, farm out the EC and those kinds of things, well, neither can we. I don't know, and again, I'm not a programmer, I don't work there, but I know most other games that I have, there's anti-cheat, software that you have to install and use with the games, but STO doesn't have anything like that, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if that would take care of a lot of these problems or not, but I'd really like to see solutions happening that aren't at the player's expense, right? Because a lot of times I'll see, in the 10 Forward streams where I see people asking for things, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, you better hope they don't fix that, because if they do fix that, the fix is going to be worse than whatever it is that you were having a problem with. And that's a big issue for me. And it really comes down to, they have the Star Trek IP, so you don't have anywhere to go, right? So there's no competition. And so I think what it is at on a company level is, well, we can kind of do whatever we want. And I'm not saying they're just saying screw us, but I don't think there's the proper kind of effort being put into balancing the fixes against, botting or whatever it is, and how the players, respond to that, because I think the overall is that, well, you can't go anywhere else for Star Trek. And the only reason someone would really be here is for Star Trek, or if you just really like the shipbuilding, right? Because those are the two really unique things about this game. The shipbuilding is crazy good. The space combat is excellent. And it's Star Trek, right? So, I mean, that's what the game has going, and you can't get that anywhere else. So again, I'm just speculating. I don't know any of these things. I'm not making accusations, but there's never any kind of real clear communication on this kind of thing at all. So that's really all we're left with, is to speculate. So, I mean, it is what it is there. So, let's go ahead through just the rest of the items they had listed here.
Really difficult to detect. All a person has to do is go and make their character hidden, and players like us can't go through and see them. However, one botter did recently slip up and exposed a very large bot farm that they were running, which gave us the ability to track it and just see how large it was of an operation. And this bot farm consisted of hundreds of accounts with thousands of characters. And the last note here is that the bots being the primary issue explains why this is a PC-only issue. You can't run automation software on a console without really being detected, nor can you run multiple accounts.
And that's an excellent point, because when the first video that Spencer put out exposing this came out, the immediate following live stream, there was immediately lots of questions right away to Kale about this, and his response basically is, we saw that, we're looking into it, but I think some of his assumptions are wrong, and basically kind of deflecting that botting was as big of an issue. But that was easy to see that wasn't true right away, because if you compare the economies from the console in the Dill Exchange on the console platforms to the PC, it was night and day difference. I mean, they're not even at, forget about a backlog, they're not even at a max 500 for the exchange rate. And the difference between the two is that you can't bot on console. And I think at this point, with, if you look at the graph that Spencer had showed here, I think it's pretty damn clear that's exactly what the problem was. So again, I think that if you're not following Spencer, go to his channel and give him a sub and comment on his videos thanking him, because I think he's single-handedly responsible for fixing this issue, at least so far. Now it could always get worse again somehow, some new way that they bot or other problems, but I think that the problem was that. And he has some interviews with some of these guys that were actually doing the bot farming, and what we're seeing is that there's a lot of them that are just, this one, I mean, he lost a lot, right? So he's done. There's others that have said, we're just done here. It's not worth the time. The stuff's starting to get exposed, and so I think it's kind of a snowball effect that we're seeing. The other part of this too is that with the current event happening, Starbase 1, at least in terms of botting Starbase 1 on Elite, is not available anymore because the event's going. There's no Elite version of that, so it wouldn't be worthwhile to do it on the normal mode. But this all started last month, prior to that event, that we've seen this downward trend. And so I think with that event going where Starbase 1 Elite is not available, that continues to help kind of push this. And I think that we all need to still be watching this stuff and bringing it up in streams, to Kale and STO, and make sure that, hey guys, because I would like to ask them, hey, there's been a dramatic reduction here. Do you guys have any explanation for why this is happening? Because maybe there's stuff we don't know that they're doing on the back end. Maybe they're going through and booting a lot of these bot accounts and finding them and really doing that work. If that's the case, they should scream that from the rooftop, because we'd all cheer for them. That'd be an excellent opportunity for them to build, more, positive, trust from the community. If they're doing that, they should be telling us, for their benefit. Take credit for that if that's what's happening. I don't know if that's what's happening right now based on the information that we have. what's happening is it was exposed, and a lot of these people are basically just checking out. So, and again, that's due to the work that Spencer CasualSAB did. So make sure that you guys are giving him lots of love, because that's huge. I think that with all the, you know, the monetary issues and things like that in the game, the dill exchange is that one thing that really balances that out, right? And so having a healthy dill exchange where people can come in and just enjoy the game, play the game, put time into it, and be able to get, you know, real life, you know, return, not having to spend real money, by being able to exchange those things, I think is huge and healthy, you know, for the game. I mean, if it gets much lower, I'll start using it again on my free to play. I've been working that account for quite a while, so I'm building up a good amount of resources as is, but it would be nice if, you know, new ships coming out and I could grind, you know, for a couple months to save up the dill, don't buy other things, and trade that in and pick up a new ship or something like that. There's a lot of just, you know, players that would really like to do that, and that really hasn't been possible over the past 2 years. So this effect and what we're seeing here is excellent, excellent, excellent. And I wanted to make sure that I highlighted this, and also make sure that we gave CasualSAB credit for this, because I think it really is due to the work that he did on it. So hopefully he does some more follow-ups on this. I really like the graphs and the charts. He's real good with you know, the detail-oriented stuff like this. And this kind of information, number one, it's entertaining. I like it. But it's also, you know, it's a real effect on the game that we all deal with one way or another. Because even if you're someone that's like, well, I never use that, it affects the exchange. It affects everything in the game in terms of the economy. So it really does have an impact across, you know, the entire, you know, economics of the game itself. It's not just isolated and limited to, you know, just the dill exchange. And if you're a free to play player, you know, switching out your dilithium for Zen. Martin, before I started spending money in the game with the dill X at 99k per Zen. Wow. I'd buy a ship tier 1, tier 4. That's crazy. I never played at a time where it was that low. Big community's healthy for everybody. It is. It really is. And with an MMO, the part that I don't understand, and this will kind of go off subject a little bit, but is why, like, they don't do drops and do different things like that. Because an MMO needs to feel vibrant, right? I don't know if anyone logged into New World before the expansion they just released. I went into a server and it was empty. And I just logged out because it didn't feel good. You know what I'm saying? There is a value that's not directly... You can't tie it directly to a dollar amount, but there's a real value for having people just in the game, even if they're not spending money, right? Because the people that are spending money, and the rest of us, we want to feel like it's full. I don't like going into an instance and there's only like 2 ships in there, unless I'm, you know, trying to record a video or something like that, right? And the more that people are in game, the more they are likely to spend some money, be it on, you know, services or a ship or something like that. I'd really like to see them do more in the way of you know, it'd be nice if they had a CC program. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that the parent company's putting those kind of resources in. But they do have drops set up. You can connect your Twitch account to Cryptic on the ARC website, and they set it up for Neverwinter. Mine's connected, but they've never done a drop for STO. They did one drop for Neverwinter. I don't know how that went or whatever, but the whole point is, like, you know, like I play World of Warships and I play tanks, and I sit there and farm the drops all day long. And if I sit in front of that watching the game for, you know, 5-10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'll log in, play a couple rounds, you know. So I log in, I'm playing, I'm filling up matches, the game is more full, there's more things happening, the queue times go down, and, you know, those aren't even MMOs. So for MMOs, I mean, that's even more important to be able to drive people into the game, whether or not they're spending money or not, right? It's like, you know, it's like a store. Like, getting people in the door is number one, right? Even if they didn't intend on buying anything, they walk around the store long enough, they might end up buying something or they might not, but that still creates a crowd in a store, and a crowd attracts a crowd. You know, MMOs are massive multiplayers. We come here because there's lots of people in the game and we can interact if we want to. Maybe we don't want to, but there's still just people around, right? It makes everything feel alive. And I would like to see more of an emphasis on just driving that. And I know it's hard because, you know, I run a business, and anything that I do or spend money on, I have to be able to have, you know, metrics and KPIs that give me, an ROI on what it is that I'm doing or spending money on. But there are things that I do in my business where I can't do that. So like I run radio ads, for instance. Nobody is in their car writing down my phone number to call me later, right? It's a branding kind of a thing, something that when somebody comes to the internet and searches for the service that I provide, and I come up in the sea of all the other competitors that I have, there's something that clicks when they see my brand, my logo, and they say, I'm familiar with that. They might not even remember the radio ad, but there's a familiarity built with it, right? And so I don't have a way to quantify what radio ads is giving me in terms of return on my marketing, but I know it has an effect. And I can see that in the overall numbers when I go back and look at those things. Because somebody might actually end up calling me from Yelp, but they picked me in Yelp because they were familiar with my brand, right? And the same thing is true with, MMOs, video games, and things like that. You want to drive people into the store, the game, because they're going to be more apt to spend money at some point, and it helps the overall game in general. The more people that are playing for free and farming things, that's more stuff for sale on the exchange. I mean, I remember going New World again, and while I was in that basically empty server for a little while, I went over to the exchange. It's called something different there, and checked it out, and it was almost empty as well. I mean, it was dead. I did see a good turnaround with that with the expansion. I haven't played with it much after that. This isn't really about that, but the point is that driving people into the game just to do that, right, is hugely valuable. No one's going to buy anything if they're not even in the game. And so I think that, if they were to do some little things like drops and stuff like that, and I mean, it could be for anything. I mean, it could be an X upgrade. It could be things that we already get. It doesn't even have to be super fancy. If it's free, I'm going to go farm it and watch the streams and most likely log in. Obviously, I'm going to log in because I play Star Trek Online, but other people that don't, maybe they only play sometimes for events and stuff, they're going to be more apt to go and watch a stream, be able to get a drop, and they're going to log in to play with their drop and apply their drop or do whatever it is, right? And that keeps more and more people in the game. They're in the game, they're seeing a new ship, out in Earth space dock area. Well, let me check that out, and they make a purchase, right? So there's a huge monetary value for these guys to do that. And my guess is the reason they don't is because they can't tie a direct ROI or a KPI, key point of interest, to exactly, what that generates them from doing that. That's my only guess, just based on, hearing, Kale talk. And again, Kale, he's the community, he's called the community manager, but he's really he's the PR person. He just delivers messaging. I don't know how much he's involved in discussions on what should happen, shouldn't happen, or any of those kinds of things. But anyways, that's my dead horse I'll beat for the day. Is I think drops would help a lot, just in general. Not just drive more people to the game, but the more people that are in the game, the more vibrant the game is, all the systems in the game, the economy in the game. And it would help also if there's always going to be a certain level of botting and things like that, right? But Star Trek is Star Trek Online is a pretty niche game. And so the community on it is not massive in comparison. And so a couple bots can have a massive effect on the overall status of the game and how well it does in the economy in the game. So I think it all kind of ties back together with that. So if you guys are watching this after the fact, I'll probably clip this up and do a video as well, because I think this is an interesting subject, and I like to get more of your guys' feedback. In video format, I read everybody's comments and respond or hearts. If I heart, that means I've read it, and you'll see I read pretty much all of them because I think it's interesting. So if you're watching this after the fact, definitely know what let me know what you guys think. As for chat, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I kind of went squirrel all over the place there, but number one, are you guys excited to see this happening on the Dill X? I mean, if you're someone that's ever even thought about using it, this should be a pretty positive thing in most of our minds to see this happening. And how do you think that, this affects the game going forward if this continues to drop and stays low like this? Voyager, you're excited about it? It's good. I think this is good. And again, I really wanted to go over this stuff like a few months or a month or so back when Spencer had first put it out. I'm glad I kind of waited so we can kind of see these results. And again, in all of Spencer's follow-up videos, he never takes credit, and I understand that, but I think it's important that we also recognize that. That is true, Martin, right? I mean, there is kind of a flip side to that, is that there also has to be people that want to buy Dilithium, and there's got to be a reason for it. And there is, but once you've played for a long time, I mean, I think I've bought into Dilithium a couple times. Once was for the Vanity Shields. So I bought Zen, or I had some left over, I think it was, and I bought for that. So I think that's a good point. For this to stay healthy, both ends of that needs to be looked at. There needs to be a balance, right? There needs to be a reason for people to want to buy Dilithium. For newer players, or players that only played for a couple of years, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of things that take Dilithium, right? So if you're going to build a fleet or be involved in a fleet, I don't think that's probably as popular in terms of buying Dilithium, but all the stuff in the rep store takes Dilithium, although you do get quite a bit of that when you level it up. So I mean, really, it's vanity shields and it's Phoenix packs. I really think that the Phoenix packs is one of the main things that really broke this to start with. And like I said before, in the past, there was a Phoenix event every 6 months or maybe once a quarter. It kind of varied. And you could not get Phoenix packs other than during those events. So you'd get the free one a day, or you could buy them. And I'm telling you, I remember I saved up like almost 2 million Dilithium one time. And when that went live, I spent all of it on it because I wanted to stock up my upgrades, hoping for an epic, and there's other decent gear in there. And so I'd blow all of that. And I have friends that they would go and buy Dilithium with Zen just so they could stock up on that. That was a really good sync. But because it's available all the time, you can just continually just pick it up, and so it's not as big of a deal, because I would get the Dilithium, hold it, and then spend it all, right? So it wasn't going into the Dilithium Exchange, at least for that. And then people that were grinding for Dilithium to get Zen, you would have people coming in and buying that Dilithium so they could get the Phoenix boxes. So I think that was huge. But it really comes down, and I keep going back and forth, is what is Cryptic's incentive for the Dill Exchange to work well? And I don't know that I have a good answer for that. And I think that probably speaks to why it doesn't seem to be a big priority. Because just making, long-term players happy, that's not enough for them to take, big action to really make sure that these things stay balanced. Cryptic let the ships sink because they make more money in the short time with the Dill X being broken. Yeah, and again, I kind of go back and forth, because like it's not like that Zen comes from nowhere, right? Somebody's still buying the Zen in order to trade it for Dilithium. It's just, as long as if there's a huge backlog, then there's always product for somebody that's buying Zen, which is what they want to buy from, right? And so we're basically creating product for Cryptic for free in their game that they can then sell to people that have bought Zen from them, is really what we're doing, right? And then we're able to take that and use it. So for us, we're worker bees for the game in order for them to sell Zen. So if it goes too far the other way and that starts to drop down, well, they can get a lot more. Let's say that it went down to 300, Dilithium for one Zen. Now Cryptic is going to sell less Zen because you don't need as much Zen in order to buy, that same amount of Dilithium. So I do think that they have an interest of that staying high in backlog, because from a monetary standpoint, there's no downside for them for that, right? In fact, it's better. There's a huge supply of a product that you have to pay Cryptic for the resource to buy that product, right? So, our benefit is being able to get that Zen and use it in game, but we're not actually creating the new Zen. The buyer is the one doing that and putting the money into the game. So if it went down lower, then I could see things happening to where they break it again. And again, breaking it is a bad term for this, because it's not broken. It's backlogged, and it just takes forever. Nothing's not working though, right? So that's really the problem. So I don't know, guys. I just, again, if you tie it to metrics and you tie it to the monetization of the game and all these kinds of things, I don't see any reason for them to want to fix this other than goodwill. I hope that's enough, at some point, but it's been 2 years, and it's taken Spencer to, expose this stuff and get it fixed. So I don't want to make this all negative, on them. I mean, this is an old game. It was developed in a different time, and we're lucky to be able to even have that available to us. A lot of other games don't have it. And we see very positive things happening to it, despite, whether they are or are not doing anything, about it. So, Overall, what we're seeing right now with it is good, and it's heading into an even better, you know, position for the people that want to be able to use this. I would just like to see that backlog. I just want it to go faster, you know, because I get my monthly stipend, and sometimes I'll buy some Zen to buy a ship, but the increments they do it in, right, and this is on purpose, it's always off. So I always have to buy more than what I needed. And so it'd be nice to be able to like just get that couple Zen difference by just making a quick exchange, not having to put, you know, an extra $10 or $20 in when I only needed like $5 worth or something like that. Bottleneck's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's bottleneck backlog that just increases the lead time, you know. It's a supply chain issue on the supplier side. You got to remember, if you're somebody that is exchanging your dilithium for Zen, you're on the supplier side. You are not on the customer side. You're selling a product that you've mined in game to people that have spent real money on Zen to sell that to. So from Cryptic's standpoint, we're not the customer in that transaction, right? The person that bought the Zen is. If they make the dill sinks good, they won't, because people will buy Zen to buy. That's the thing, is that when you exchange dilithium for Zen, Cryptic isn't giving that to you. Somebody else that's paid real money is giving that to you. So Cryptic's winning there. And if they made the dill sinks good, then, you know, like, let's say, and I'm just going to make some stuff up. Let's just say they during the Phoenix event, they added I'm just gonna make this up, the sticks to it, right? And you could use 5 ultra rares, or let's make it a little crazy, 20 ultra rares. I don't want to tie it to epic because I wouldn't do that because the drop rate's so low. But let's say it was 20 ultra rares and you could get a sticks for that character. I'd drop 30, 40 bucks into that if I didn't already have one, because you can get those drops fairly often. For the ultra rare, 20 is not too crazy. People would drop money in, buy Zen, and then go buy the dilithium from other players. Cryptic wins because they're selling Zen, and there's a huge incentive, you know, for people to do that because you could get a sticks from it, right? So if they came up with dill sinks that, you know, were enticing enough for people to go buy dilithium, Cryptic wants people to buy dilithium. They just don't care about the people selling it. That's the problem, right? Because in order to buy dilithium, you have to buy Zen. Cheaper Zen can benefit Cryptic also. Means if they are dill items that people want to buy with Zen, will cost them more Zen to get if dill rates are lower. That's true. So we could talk about this for hours. It's an interesting subject because this game is so layered in every different place that you look at it, and it's been around for so long and added to and adjusted, and there's all these different systems. I mean, there really is nothing else like this game. And I mean, and that's why I still play it after so long and after beating everything, because there's so much to it between the shipbuilding, the economy. There's people that just play the economy for fun. They literally just, buy, sell, trade, and things like that on the exchange because it is vibrant. There's so many different places for resources that translates into other systems and those kinds of things. So I really enjoyed these subjects. And like I said, I've been itching to really kind of talk through this some with you guys for quite a while. And so I'm glad we were able to do that today. We're going to go ahead and leave it there. Like I said, if you want to talk about this more, use the comment section, either on the stream. I'll also clip some of this up too for an individual video. Discord's always available as well, because I think this stuff's really interesting. I think a lot of it's out of our control, which is kind of the frustrating part, with the exception of what, like I said, CasualSAB did here, which is, I think, pretty amazing and impactful for us. So, again, make sure you guys give him some love for that.